All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Introduction to BayREN's ePermit tool for building departments and local governments. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Damian Hardman. I'm with the Contra Costa County Department of Conservation and Development. I actually work in our planning and building department, so I kind of do both, and I do a lot of work with our building official directly and have been running our energy efficiency programs for quite some time with the county. I'm also the BayREN representative for Contra Costa County. I'd also want to introduce Benningfield Group, which is the organization that helped put this tool together. We have Robin Wells from Benningfield Group. We have Alex Benningfield, and then Alex John Groth as well, and they're going to help with answering some questions later on when we get to Q&A. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items to participate in today's event. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter, myself, by typing your questions into the questions pane of your control panel. You may also send your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session. I'm also going to have Edgar Strawbridge from Frontier Energy. He's going to help field some of those questions that you guys type in as well. With that said, we'll get started. And so, like I said, today really the purpose is really to highlight a really interesting energy efficiency toolkit, and also wanted to talk before we get into that what the Bay Area Regional Energy Network is. Those of you who may not be familiar with them, it's a collaboration of all the 9 Bay Area counties, and they work together to implement energy efficiency programs throughout the entire Bay Area. And one of those programs that we work on is improving code compliance. So we have that's one of our primary goals, as well as some other programs that we run, such as our single family rebate program and multifamily. But today we're going to be talking about the ePermit tool. Before we get officially started today, I did want to do a couple of polling questions for everyone on their screen, and we're going to have those set up to you right now. And just take a few seconds to click on what that is, so it helps me figure out, what kind of who's in the audience and who I'm kind of addressing for this webinar, so I can be as helpful as possible. And I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds to respond to the first polling there, and then we'll move on to the next. I don't want to have to wait too long. Okay, great. It looks like I have quite a group of building staff and sustainability staff. That's fantastic. So it looks like it's about almost half that for the group tied. So that's really wonderful. And now we'll do the next poll for you. Okay, it looks like quite a group for everyday questions on the permit stuff that we're going to go over today. So I'm really excited about that. And let's get started and move on to the rest of the presentation for you. So a little bit about our codes and standards program for BayREN. It's really about compliance improvement and policy. At the end of the day, we're trying to improve energy code compliance, also trying to make it easy. So really, when we're talking about this ePermit tool that I'm going to demo today, we're going to show you how to try to make things a little bit easier And we also try to do some policy stuff too, so sharing best practices and regional forums. Now, when we're talking about this ePermit tool, really the purpose of it is to make things simple. And the ePermit tool covers your building permit stuff that's really your most common: hot water heaters and replacing a roof and new windows, right? So really the purpose is for this to be a guide for building departments to use when you're bombarded at the front counter, you have a lot going on. We've seen it as helpful for our building department staff as a way of trying to address, the front counter being extremely busy. It works really well for phone calls. If you're getting phone calls about what's required for these simple type of permits, you can refer them to the ePermit tool. So really, and from our perspective, who is your audience for this? It's really homeowners. Some contractors, for contractors who may not be familiar with it, but really it's to educate homeowners, get them aware of what the process is for these simple types of permits. A lot of them don't even know you need a permit for a hot water heater. So this really tries to get at that issue, make them realize and do the right thing, and also provide some guidance on what's important to, energy code compliance. If they're into the environment, what are the best, pros and cons for things for them when they're trying to decide what to do. Really, from my perspective, it's about expediting permitting process, or not necessarily that, but alleviating some of the burden on building code staff in general. So our plan checkers, if they're busy, I know how it is at that front counter. If they get bombarded with phone calls, they need to address, hey, put them on hold. Maybe this tool is used to do that. Guide them to this tool for now until you can get back to the phone to talk to them. So we see that as a plus. Also, improving energy code compliance, that's our ultimate goal. But as you see it, I have as number 3. My top goal really is to educate homeowners, and then also try to make the process easier for our building code staff. All right, that being said, I'm going to move on to actually doing a demo. And there's 2 different things I'm going to do for the demo. I will do a walkthrough of what the generic version of the demo looks like, and then I'm going to do a walkthrough of what it looks like if you were to do it yourself as a county. Contra Costa County actually has their permit application if you want to actually be a county to get unique services to integrate it into your existing permitting process. So all of you can see, you can go on your own computer as well, and you can go to BayRENcodes.org. You could also go to BayREN.org, which gives us the general information for BayREN, but for the purpose of this, you want to go to BayRENcodes.org, and you'll see that on your screen there. And then if you go down to resources, you'll see ePermit tool down at the bottom. You click on that, and this will get you to, and then you'll see, the advertisement for today's webinar. If you want to have a customized ePermit tool like Contra Costa does, and how it's integrated in our permitting system, you can actually sign up to do that right there on the right-hand side. If you scroll down, you can access the ePermit tool here. You click on it. It's pretty simple looking, as you can see. It's not designed to look super fancy, but from my perspective, it really gets the job done. And so, you can think, well, what do you need for a hot water heater? Really, for a hot water heater, when we're talking about this, it's more about educating our homeowner. So, okay, if I'm a homeowner, I'm like, oh, what do I need to know about hot water heaters? You click on it, and there you go. You see, California's building requires permits for all new or replaced hot water heaters, says it's part of Title 24. And then, you need to start answering some questions if you're interested. So you move forward and you click on it and you go, yes, I want I know what I want to install. Let's just say I know what I want to install. I know a lot of people are popular with the tankless gas, right? So let's click on that. I want that because I want hot water for days, right? And then you click on it and you're like, oh, what do I need to do? Now, I do know that some building departments, shame on them, including our own building department, does not always require the CF1R Ultra. So that those prescriptive requirements in the energy code as part of their building permit, they often should though. So it's included in there. You can click on it and you can have it downloaded. For the purpose of this, you know, I could show you it, but I'll show it to you on another one of them just to move it along. But if you had a customized version, which I'll show you, you'll actually have something that has something to pull up a building permit application that's integrated with the county building, with your agency's building permit application as well, so that they can download it and print it out and actually fill in the information. So it's pretty straightforward. So if you know what you're going to do, that's a good demo for just the basic one. I'll get into a little bit more nuanced. And then for Windows, this one's a little bit more fun, I think. You can click on it, tells you what's required, right? Okay, new, you know, what is this? What is fenestration too? So you can go up to the fenestration, because you know most people aren't going to know that except us building department geeks, right? So you know, you're like, okay, I want to get started. All right, so yes, I'm adding new fenestration. Oh wow, Windows, I just learned a new word. Cool. So if you're a resident, you don't really know what you're doing. Okay, so let's just say, okay, I'm going to type in 5. Let's do 94597. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. Hey, look at that. So I'm in Walnut Creek. I wanted to be in the hotter climate zone for this. And I'm adding windows. Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to be adding windows. Or maybe I'm just replacing. I haven't decided, but let's see what it looks like if I do this. You know, okay, so new window area. Oh, I have to figure that out. Okay, So one thing about this tool that we're going to fix later on in the year is we're actually going to say what you need to have ahead of time, so that you're not trying to figure this out right as you're going through the tool. So that's one fix we're going to make later on in the year, hopefully before the end of the calendar year. But just so you know how this works, I think I'm going to do that. 20 square feet, you hit continue, and then you're like, oh wow, Windows U factor. What's a U factor? I don't know what that is. So this is where the tool, we're going to probably have some more additions to it, where we'll actually include maybe photos of where the U factor is for people who don't understand all that, who's the general public. But this gives you basic prescriptive information, what's required, and then you can click on the CFR. And now for this one, let's just do the download and let's open it. Let's see how that goes. I haven't tested this out, so we'll see how this goes on this computer. So let's see. Oh, look at that. It worked. I can click on that PDF, hopefully. We'll see if it loads on me. Well, you get the gist. If it'll open up the PDF, there it is. There it is. There we go. We got it. And so you can actually have them fill out the form, and they can include that as part of their building permit. So let's try to minimize that. There we go. All right. So that being said, there you go for Windows. Now we'll go back just to make this go a little bit faster for everyone. Now, roof replacement. This is most recent addition that we've done. You'll notice a big difference. We've added some more pictures to it, and then we'll do 597. And I'm curious to see what happens. Okay, what am I? Most people are replacing most of their roof, or all of their roof. So we'll say yes. And then we're like, oh, what's the pitch of my roof? Look at this. So we actually have photos now, shows people what the pitch is. My building, when I was demoing this to our building staff, they really liked this. So it's really helpful because people don't understand what they need. So you're like, oh, mine is kind of like between 6 and 12 or 5 and 12. But you have a good idea of what's needed, and then you can click continue, and then you're like, okay, are there ducts? Well, have air conditioning, so yes, there are ducts. So we're going to say yes, and then we're going to move forward. I don't think it is insulated with at least R8. And then if you don't know about R values, there's some information about that for people. Also gives you information down below here. That's really helpful for people who don't know anything about what's required, right? And then here, a radiant barrier, I'm going to say no for the radiant barrier. It's oft, most homes, a lot of homes don't have them, so we're just going to say no. And then we're going to go, you know what? I don't think I have this. This is a really old home. Probably, maybe I don't have that, so we're going to say no. And as you can see, there's lots of pictures, and it shows you what's required. Is there a foam board insulation with an R value, or at least R2 install above your roof sheathing? And you're like, no, I don't think I have that either. So I'm going to do that. And then it's like, okay, if you don't have any of these things, if you know the building code, you're like, well, you've got to have, 1 inch airspace between. I don't think I have that either, and then, additional efficiency option required. So it sounds like because I didn't click on any of those things, it looks like I need to do something when I replace my roof, and there's an option here. You can click on cool roof. What's really cool is it auto populates this information in here, and then you can put it on your building permit application. That's why it's cool if you were to integrate it with your building department. You can actually have your application on here as a PDF, and actually will auto populate that information. I'm going to demo that next. So, and then you can click on the CF1R requirements for that as well if you want. So now that's the basic generic version, what I've showed you. That's available online at any time. You can, like I said, you can go on the BayRENcodes.org webpage, you go down to resources, and it'll be available for you. It's down at the bottom of the resources tab. Now, if you wanted to integrate it into your own building department, like we have for Contra Costa County, I'm going to go ahead and pull up what it looks like for our county. So everyone knows that they have to go to the Application and Permit Center in Contra Costa County, which is the Department of Conservation and Development. And a lot of these permits can be pulled by electronic permitting systems for us. So what we did is we've integrated the tool on our web page. So to give you some context, we have two computer consoles for people who want to do electronic e-permits right there at the office and not have to deal with a person to submit. And on there, they get put right onto this page. Well, on this page, we have a little BayREN logo here for if they want to replace stuff and they're interested and they want to get started, you can click on the tool and it takes you on the tool. And it's exactly the same tool that I just walked you through. What I will show is let's do roof replacement one again, because I do want to show how it's integrated into our system. And let's go 597 again, just for consistency purposes. And then, are you replacing? Yes. We'll do this one more time, and we'll say yes, because roof is more than that. And then you'll go through the whole process, and you'll say yes. Let's just say it has that, and then you'll say, let's, for this purpose, just say it has that. And let's do a little bit different this time and say yes, even though that's usually not the case in a lot of places. And then are you replacing your roof sheathing? And then you can say no. And then no additional requirements. Look at that, no additional requirements. The difference here is you're going to see some stuff here for the Contra Costa building permit. So you've got to select, note you're replacing the entire roof. Okay, let's just say I want to include a cool roof as part of my project. Okay, and then we'll download the prescriptive alterations, include it with my application, but also here's my PDF permit application. We'll download that application, we'll open it, allow, and then it actually opens up our county permit application. And so somebody can at home fill out their permit application with all the requirements. And they could do it through the ePermit system as well, which is a little bit more intensive process. But even if they wanted to do most of this and then just come by the office, and then you'll see it auto-populates the replaced roof, and it includes a roof with solar, and it gives you all of the technical specifications in the job detail, which is great for if you're a county like us who wants to have a good detailed description, and also for our permit center for Acela, which is what we use. So it's really helpful for all of that when it's inputted into the system and it has our regular building permit application. So yeah, and I know I went really quick through this process. I do want to talk about, our building official, Jason Crapo, is a really big advocate of trying to make our building permit process smoother, more efficient for our staff, and just getting our staff educated on this. And our staff, when we had initially launched this just for the water heater portion several years ago, it is one of those things that once you have this system up in place, lessons learned over the years now is make sure if you have a large staff, you want to make sure that you routinely advise them that it's there and it's available for them to use as a reference to refer people who are trying to pull these types of permits. So because we've had like a 50% turnaround in our building department staff, and it was fun coming back recently and saying, hey, we have this, and a lot of them didn't have it. And it's your people at the very front that are new that really like this tool as well, is what I'm learning too. And but with that said, I think we're going to looks like it's time for questions. And I will open up Benningfield Group, and so they can begin to answer questions submitted during our presentation today. And as a reminder, you'll be able to submit your questions through the questions pane. And I'm going to work with Edgar here and see where we're at with questions. So one of the questions is there a Spanish version on the horizon? The answer is yes, we're working on that. So we're definitely trying to put that into the tool. I'm hoping that we can get that done probably in the next month or two. So that's something and it might even be sooner than that. So that's something we're working on. And then one question is how long has Contra Costa County been using the tool? We have been using the tool, I'd say at least the hot water heater portion, at least a couple of years. It has been stop and go with getting some of the staff on board with it, but what I've learned is to just routinely go to their their meetings in person and remind them. They're very overwhelmed staff. There's a lot of them for our department, so just reminding them that it's there. They're very receptive to it and they do appreciate it. And a lot of the staff that's a little bit less experienced actually really thinks it's neat too, so that's cool. And our more seasoned group knows all about it. They're not the ones that are practical and using it every time. They're on the policy side, but there's a big interest for its value. Okay, so one of you was having some technical difficulties and you wanted to show the link on the DCD website. I can definitely go back and show you that really quickly. That's really easy. So hopefully you can see that. And if you go on to our Department of Conservation and Development website, you'll see on the Application Permit Center site, you'll see it on ePermits. And if you click on ePermits, and it's ePermits.cccounty.us, it should come up that way if you wanted to do it that way. Another place I have it is on our county-wide BayREN website, which is helpful for people who are doing upgrades to their home. They're going to land on the rebate on our county-wide rebate page. It's also on there as well. So those are the two places on our county, and that's www.cccounty.us/energy. It's our energy webpage, which has a bunch of resources on there as well. Yeah, and so there is one part I forgot to show in the presentation actually, and I should pull that up. Let's see here. Here we go. And here you'll see the difference between the basic version and the customized version of the ePermit tool. So it gives you, the difference between that. You'll get the jurisdiction logo if you do it with, a customized version, and jurisdiction specific resources. So we can really try to figure out what works best for your jurisdiction. If you're interested in getting the customized version, our office went back and forth with directly integrating it with our Acela building permit system, but it turned out for us to be more of a headache with our IT than it was worth it. But for other jurisdictions, that's definitely something we would be interested in trying to do, and for other jurisdictions in the Bay Area if they were interested.
And, this is Robin Wells with Benningfield Group. One of the questions looks like Sarah asked was what specifically is involved with customizing the ePermit tool to your local jurisdiction. That's a pretty simple process. There's about 10 pieces of data that we need from you guys: jurisdiction name, website, logo, if a link to, if you have an online permit center, PDF of the building permit application. I'll type this all up in the answer section of the Q&A so you guys can all have visibility to the full list. But it's a fairly simple, small set of information.
Yeah, the only part that gets sticky is if you're trying to directly integrate it into like your permitting software process. That's something we haven't, like I said, we haven't gone into that. But if you wanted it to be like how Contra Costa has it, or if you have a web page and you just want to have the application for your specific, it's pretty straightforward to do it. We know how to do that pretty quickly now. Are there? So yeah, one question is the ePermit tool free of charge? Yes, absolutely. It would be covered through BayREN if you wanted to get a customized version. Obviously, if we get swarmed with requests for customized version, we'll cross that bridge when we have to figure out if it's too much of a workload under our existing BayREN budget to figure out whether we could include you. So if you are interested, I strongly encourage you to submit your interest as soon as possible, because if it does get if a lot of jurisdictions get involved, we may not be able to accommodate them all. But right now, the answer is we would try to accommodate everybody if we could. So. And we're still fielding questions here, so don't mind my pausing. It looks like I'm getting quite a few questions from everybody. So how do you receive payment and issue the permit is one of the questions. So yeah, that's a great question. We haven't integrated into that process. It's really, if you're interested in doing it, you fill out the application and you submit it. Most of the time we get people just downloading the application and then filling it out and then bringing it into the office. I'm not the expert when it comes to how our ePermit process works, so but that's something I could get more information to you on if you were interested, and follow up with you independently, or if there was a large group that was interested in how that. But for the purpose of this, we would like to just integrate it with whatever process made the most sense. If you were willing to be a jurisdiction that wanted to include that. And then one question is, how do you request a customized version? You can go to the web page, and you can actually, I'll pull it up so you can see it again. It was on the BayREN ePermit tool. Let's see, trying to make it efficient here. But yeah, if you go to BayRENcodes.org and you click on resources and you go to ePermit tool, and if you see on the right hand side there, it says customize ePermit tool sign up. That's where you can sign up. It's right on the web page there. So you just have to put in your name, email address, and phone number, and some basic information here, what jurisdiction you are, and then we'll get back to you and we'll send you an email, and then we'll try to coordinate. All right.
So we got a question about the windows and explaining how to measure the area of the windows. I'm going to let Alex answer that.
Yeah,
okay.
The question was, is there a place in the window portion that explains how to measure the area of the windows? It asks if the area is just the glass or includes the frame, and it does include the frame. There currently is not a part there that explains how to measure it. So that could be added, and that's something that I think that we're looking into, adding those kinds of usability things.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of some of the nuances of things that I'm trying to improve to the tool, and that we'll make sure to include that as one of the enhancements.
Also, with this tool, we're the part of the process actual addition or alteration or whatever that the customer is doing is at the point where it's not. We're not too worried about them being exactly right on the square feet, especially with the windows. It's a threshold, it's over 16 square feet of skylights or 75 square feet of new window area. So, if we're really looking for like an estimate, of the area rather than like a precise measurement. Because usually, this is at the stage where we're telling them what the requirements are, so they don't have, a product picked out necessarily already. That applies to the window one, and especially applies to like the water heater one even more so.
So then there's another question about, can the tool report out metrics on how many people have used it? It can. We have the current generic e-tool set up with Google Analytics, and there's certain actions we look for, like what zip codes are being entered and how many visitors we have. I don't have access to that information right now, but if that's something you're interested in, we could follow up after with that information, and we can. It is something that would be set up then for the individual customized version.
All right, Edgar, are there any more questions? Or
That's it.
Well, if that's it with questions, you guys were not too bad of a crowd. So I appreciate your patience with us fielding the questions, and hopefully this was really helpful for you figuring out whether this is of value to you or not. It's we've put quite a bit of time and resources in this the last few years I have to try to get it up to par, and we're almost there with it really being clean, and I really want to be able to provide it in different languages, so that's something we're going to be looking into as well. So appreciate your time, and wanted to thank you and everyone for attending today's webinar. Appreciate it for the introduction of BayREN's ePermit tool for building departments and local governments. If you have any other questions, you can also email us at codes@bayren.org. Once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we really appreciate it if you can fill out this survey and get your feedback. We'll also receive follow-up email with a link to view a recording of today's webinar as well. So this will also be recorded. On behalf of the BayREN Codes and Standards team, I want to thank you for joining us today, and hopefully you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.